Have you ever heard a sound so familiar it makes your skin crawl? Not a scream, not a growl, but something much quieter. A whisper, perhaps, carried on the static of an old radio. In the heart of the mist-shrouded mountains, there stood an abandoned radio tower. For 20 years, it hadn't sent out a single broadcast. The locals gave it a wide berth, their voices dropping to hushed tones when they spoke of it. They claimed that if you listened closely, the airwaves still whispered the names of the dead. But 16-year-old Ethan wasn't the type to believe in ghost stories. He was curious, maybe a little reckless, a combination that often leads to trouble. One cold, dreary evening, while exploring his grandfather's dusty attic, Ethan stumbled upon a relic from a forgotten time. It was an old radio, its casing rusted and caked with years of grime. Yet as he brushed away the cobwebs, he felt a faint hum vibrating through the wood. A spark of life in the machine's dormant heart. He fiddled with the knobs, a sense of illicit excitement coursing through him. When he finally turned it on, the room filled with a chilling electric hiss. It was the sound of nothingness, the sound of empty space between stations. But then, cutting through the static like a knife, a voice emerged. It was calm, male, and impossibly clear. And it said his name, Ethan. "You can hear us now." The words hit him like a physical blow. He dropped the radio, his heart hammering against his ribs. It clattered to the floorboards, but the voice continued unfazed from the small speaker. "Come to the tower. Bring the light." The voice was magnetic, a siren's call wrapped in static. Every rational thought in Ethan's mind screamed at him to run, to smash the radio, to forget he ever heard it. But curiosity is a powerful, dangerous thing. It gnawed at him, whispering possibilities, daring him to uncover the truth. That night, with a flashlight clutched in his trembling hand, Ethan found himself hiking through the thick, disorienting fog, drawn inexorably toward the skeletal silhouette of the old radio station. As he approached, the tower loomed over him like a silent metal giant. The front door, heavy and warped with age, creaked open on its own as if beckoning him inside. A shiver traced its way down his spine, but he stepped across the threshold anyway. The air inside was cold and smelled of ozone and decay. The control room was a graveyard of obsolete technology. Dust-covered consoles, tangled wires, and faded dials filled the space. But something was wrong. The equipment, long dead and disconnected from any power source, was glowing with a faint, ethereal light. In the center of the room, a single microphone stood on its stand, poised and waiting, as if someone had just stepped away from it mere moments ago. Hesitantly, Ethan reached out and touched the cool metal of the microphone. He leaned in, his breath fogging in the frigid air, and whispered, "Hello?" The sound was swallowed by the silence. But then, a response boomed from the speakers mounted on the walls around him. It was his own voice, amplified and distorted, echoing back at him. "I am waiting." Panic seized him. He spun around, ready to flee, but the heavy door slammed shut with a deafening thud, plunging him into near-total darkness, save for the ghostly glow of the consoles. The static roared back to life, not from the small radio he'd left at home, but from every speaker in the room. The hissing sound began to resolve itself, fracturing into whispers, hundreds of them, overlapping, a chaotic symphony of voices crying, laughing, and chanting his name over and over. Ethan, 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 double quotes the old radio in his grandfather's attic. Miles away, crackled to life once more, its voice now booming through the station's powerful speakers. Every signal needs a source. Ethan's eyes darted wildly around the room, landing on the main control board. A single large switch was illuminated, glowing with an ominous red light he hadn't noticed before. The label beneath it was simple, transmit. He hadn't touched it. He was sure of it. The needles on the analog meters, long since frozen, began to twitch and then spike violently into the red, dancing to a silent, unseen rhythm. He scrambled to the window, peering out into the swirling fog. Silhouettes began to materialize in the mist, dozens of them standing motionless just beyond the tower's base. Their faces were blurred, indistinct, but they were all turned toward him, listening. "Who are you?" Ethan shouted, his voice cracking with terror. The reply was instantaneous, a chorus of whispers speaking as one from the speakers. "The forgotten voices. We spoke before your kind built the wires." The air grew heavy, thick with an ancient, malevolent energy. Then a sharp, piercing tone cut through the whispers. It was the emergency broadcast signal, a sound designed to command attention and signal danger. But beneath it, a new layer of sound emerged, faint screams, layered like echoes from another time, another world. The tone grew louder, more intense, and the very foundations of the tower began to shake. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling. Desperate, Ethan lunged for the main console, grabbing the tuning dial, trying to turn it off to find silence. But the dial spun on its own, resisting his grip, its movement unnaturally smooth. It spun faster and faster before locking into place with a definitive click. 66.6 FM. The whispers stopped. The emergency tone ceased. In the ringing silence, the single calm voice returned. "You've joined the frequency." And then everything went dark. At sunrise, the fog lifted. The villagers awoke to find the old radio tower standing silent and still against the morning sky, just as it had for the past 20 years. Life in a small mountain town went on. Ethan was reported missing, a tragic story of a curious boy who wandered into the woods and never came back. But the tower wasn't truly silent. Not anymore. Now, every single night, at exactly 3 o'clock a.m., a faint broadcast can be heard drifting across the valley. It's weak, laced with static, but unmistakable. It's the trembling voice of a young boy, repeating the same desperate plea. Over and over again, a hollow signal lost in the darkness. "Can anyone hear me? I didn't mean to turn it on ... double quotes. Thank you for listening to this chilling tale." Sometimes the greatest horrors aren't the ones that chase you, but the ones that call to you. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another journey into the unknown.